Yo, what's up, Rare Candy? It's your boy Zach Lesage, and we are back here with another deck profile video. Today, we're going to be going over Milotic V, Galar Mine, and Welder all together in the same deck. A little bit of a weird one, but I assure you the concept does work most of the time. So, jumping into it, the first card we're going to feature is Milotic V. So, Milotic V, one of the cards from Rebel Clash that's coming out early in May, so keep your eyes out for that. Should be cool. It's kind of like Tangrowth in a way. So its first attack is doing 10 damage plus 50 damage for each retreat cost your opponent has. So on its own, it's probably not doing enough damage, but with the new card that we have coming out in Rebel Clash, Galar Mine, we can add 2 retreat costs to all Pokemon in play. So if you're playing against something such as an ADP, which has 280 HP and has a 3 retreat cost, it has 3 retreat costs, so it's doing 10 plus 50, 50, 50, 160, plus Galar Mine, so another 100, 260. So all you need is an Absol from Team Up in Play to get a knockout. I'm sure you can see how it adds up. Second attack really isn't going to matter too much because its first attack is going to be doing a lot more damage. So how do we make this deck consistent? Well, we have 4 copies of Jirachi here. Jirachi's really going to help us search out whatever we want. In a Welder deck specifically, I do like having Jirachi just so I could search out what I want. One thing that you might notice when we're going through this deck is that it does not play a skateboard. That is because this deck does play Galar Mine, and the Galar Mine is going to stop the Jirachi from being able to retreat within a skateboard because it does add 2 more retreat cost. So keep that in mind. I learned that in my early testing. That's why this deck plays Scoop Up Net. We got 2 copies of Deandre GX just to make this deck, again, a little bit more consistent. This deck usually wants to go second, but with the support that it has from Jirachi and Deandre GX, it is okay to go first as well. We do have 2 copies of Absol. Like I said, it's going to power up Milotic V, so they can use more. So your opponent will have more retreat. Keep note that it is for only your opponent's basic Pokemon. So your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic, it gets an extra retreat cost. So if it is a VMAX Pokemon or an evolution Pokemon, it will not get an extra retreat cost. I did put in a copy of Ninetales V, one of the new V Pokemon from this set, into this deck. The big reason why I decided to do that is because Ninetales V can copy anything in a Welder deck or any deck that can power this up, actually. I think Ninetales V is amazing and should probably be played. There's no particular attack that I want to cover, but with Pokemon being popular like Zacian V, having a Fire-type Pokemon in your deck is not going to be a bad idea either. Going off of Eric from Rare Candy's suggestion, I did add an Eldegoss V to this deck. In a deck that plays Welder, it does seem strong to just be able to play down a card and get back a supporter. And if worse comes to worse, you could always shuffle it away with its Soar attack. It's one of those things where I'm a little bit worried about bench space with Jirachis and Milotics and Dedennés and Absols that I'm not entirely sure if the Eldegoss is always going to be able to come out. But again, it's one of those things that can work out well. I do have a copy of Marshadow in here. Really kind of nothing special about it beyond it can get around Chaotic Swell. With this deck focusing so hard on playing down Galar Mine, it seems very important to play a copy of Marshadow to help get around those supporters that can stop you from, or those stadiums that can stop you from playing down your Galar Mine. Then I have 4 copies of, 1 copy of Volcanion. It's basically going to allow this deck to use Flare Starter if you go second to power up a couple Milotic V so that you're ready to attack the next turn. This deck does require a lot of energy in play or on different Pokemon, so Flare Starter is really cool. Similar to Ninetales, with this being a Fire-type Pokemon, it can be quite a strong attacker against decks that play Zacian V or other Pokemon that are weak to Fire. And we do have 4 copies of Galar Mine here. Galar Mine, again, new card from Rebel Clash. It will add retreat costs, so your Milotic V can hit for different numbers. Being a Welder deck, I know some players are looking to play this deck with RC style Gopalkia. I wanted to go with something a little bit, what I think can be a little bit more quick. We got 4 copies of Welder. We can power up our Pokemon in 1 turn, and we can actually get the Milotic V's attack off in 1 turn. So it can be pretty cool there. Got a couple copies of the new card Boss's Commands, or Boss's Order, however it's going to get translated in English. Bringing up whichever Pokemon you want seems pretty good, especially those that can get knocked out with Milotic V's attack. Sometimes you see your opponent will have something like a Zeraora GX in play that's going to stop most of their Pokemon from having a retreat cost or anything like that. The Boss's Command seems like it's going to help us get around those situations. And then one copy of Great Catcher on a turn that you want to use Welder and bring something up. Great Catcher seems like a really good card that you could just rip off of a Jirachi Stellar Wish. We got 4 copies of Quick Ball here. So Quick Ball quickly becoming a format staple that you could just splash in any deck. Pretty much every deck I think is playing Quick Ball, 4 copies. This is just so we could search out all of our Pokemon. With every single Pokemon being a basic Pokemon, seems quite helpful to be able to search out all 16 of them. Or I guess not 16, 15 of them. Little bit of a weird inclusion here to play 4 copies of Energy Spinner, but if you go second, you could search for the Fire, Water, and then Welder, and basically have the Milotic ready to go on your first turn. With this deck having dual energy types necessary, Energy Spinner seems like the best way to search this out, because energies are such high demand. You can't play Giant Hearth because of Galar Mine. You can't play Fiery Flint because you do need a water energy. You can't play any of the new cards. I think it's Water Bucket or Full Bucket from Rebel Class, just because, again, you need the fire energy. So Energy Spinner is the one that fits just right in this deck. We have 4 copies of Switch, mainly that so we can get around our own Galar Mine, and that we can power up, or we can get out of that access of the Jirachi being the active position. And if we're struggling any more with that, we do have 2 copies of the new card Scoop Up Net that will allow us to pick up a Jirachi. Feel free to pick up a Jirachi and use it again if you find that necessary. This card cannot pick up a GX or V Pokemon, so don't try it on an Eldegoss V, no matter how tempting it seems. Got a couple copies of Pokemon Communication, just because Pokemon Communication is really going to allow this deck to get out more Pokemon. You do need a lot of pieces, whether it's an Absol, so maybe you'll have like an Eldegoss in your hand, you need another Absol, or you need a Jirachi or Dedenne GX. You just need a lot of pieces going on, so I wanted to have more copies of Quick Ball. If I could play 6 copies of Quick Ball, I would just play 6 copies of Quick Ball. Got a Stadium Nav. Stadium Nav, it seems like it's a good card to rip off Jirachi so we can get a Galar Mine. Speaking about Galar Mine, it might be useful to cut 1 copy here for a power plant if decks that play Zeraora GX or other similar cards are popular, because that would give them the retreat cost back. So it might be interesting there. I've experimented with 2 copies of Stadium Nav. I did like it, so do keep that in mind when you are playing with this deck. I do have a copy of Ordinary Rod. Ordinary Rod seems like it's a cool way to just get some cards back. We have a lot of different Pokemon. Maybe they'll knock out an Absol. We can get an extra retreat cost, or even getting back an Eldegoss so we can use Welder. It seems like it's a pretty all-around card. We have a copy of Tool Scrapper, a card that was reprinted from Dragons Exalted all the way to Rebel Clash. So we could choose the tool cards that we want to discard. Namely, we could discard escape boards. That's going to stop our opponent from having an extra retreat cost, which could really add up when they have an ADP. So if they have an ADP with an escape board, that would require us to have another Absol out in play. So Tool Scrapper is a great way for us to kind of do plus 50 damage if necessary. Like most decks that play Welder, I do have a copy of Palpad, one to make sure that I could get back whatever we want, or if we discarded a Boss's Command early enough, it seems like it could work out there. Then there's a copy of Fire Crystal. I just wanted to have a way after you've depleted a lot of energy to get your energy back as soon as possible. We do have a copy of Ordinary Rod that can help out with that, but the way that Welder works, we can get the 3 energies instantly to our hand and power up something with Welder, whether it's a Ninetales V Volcanion or Milotic V. And then here we just have our copies of Fire Energies. We do have 9 of these. Just wanted to have enough so that we could always get the Welder off whenever we wanted. And then we have our copies of Water Energies so that we could attack with Milotic whenever we wanted. So overall, I think it's a pretty cool deck that's just really focusing on your opponent's retreat cost. Might be a better and more vicious version of Tangrowth. That's something that we're going to have to see. There are a lot of moving pieces in this deck with requiring 2 energy types, mapping out your opponent's retreat cost for Milotic with Absol and Galar Mine. At the very least, this seems competitive enough to play at a League Challenger League Cup. We'll see if it's possible to be better than that. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to our channel to see what's going on in the future. We've got a lot of great stuff lined up. If you want to support our channel a little bit more than that, you can go to patreon.com/rarecandytcg. You could also go to rarecandytcg.com, pick up some sick merch. We appreciate all the support. As for me, I'm Zach Lesage. You can follow me on Twitter at ZLesage Pokemon. Thanks so much for watching and have yourself a great day.